Hi everyone, I'm Hannah, and I'm going to show you how we remodeled our dated bathroom into a calming retreat. So here's what the bathroom looked like before we started our renovation. One thing that really stands out are the 70s color tiles with the really thick grout line, so these had to go. There were a lot of mismatched metal finishes, so chrome and bright shiny brass. The plumbing wasn't done correctly to the shower, so we could only get lukewarm water at best. The vanity, the finish was wearing off, so it really needed to be redone or replaced. And, the lighting as well was pretty dated and in poor quality. And here's a vertical orientation of the bathroom just so you can get a better sense of how it feels. There is one window, which is great to get all that natural light in. You can see also the floor is kind of like this mottled vinyl texture. The toilet, you can see we had replaced a really old toilet and put a bidet in, and we did that initially when we moved in. So that's one thing that was already done when we started our renovation. So lots of things to do in this bathroom, but excited to take you on that process. We had a few big priorities for our bathroom renovation. The first one was to fix the plumbing so we could actually get hot water for our showers. I love hot showers, so this was like the biggest reason to renovate our bathroom. The second, there was a light switch that was literally inside the shower, which is totally not code compliant, so we wanted to move that out of the shower to a better place. 3, we wanted to add a shower niche to put our shampoo bottles and our soaps. Before that, we had a shower caddy that hung over the shower head, which just looks kind of cheap. So to have a more luxurious feel, a shower niche is always best. And we wanted a medicine cabinet. This was a personal dream of mine for many, many years, and it sounds so silly, but just to be able to hide all the clutter away behind your mirror, to me, is just the best thing. And when I was thinking about the visual design of the space, I had a few priorities. One was just to use simple and classic materials. Because this isn't our forever home, we wanted to use things that will appeal to other people and have a neutral base that the walls could be repainted later. We also wanted to limit the number of colors and metal finishes. When you have a small space, this is one of the best ways to make it look cohesive and intentional. And finally, I wanted it to feel more sophisticated and to have some unique touch that reflected what my spouse and I like. This is my main inspiration for the bathroom project. This is a bathroom by The Stables, which is a design firm in Australia. And what I love about this is the design of the vanity. It has a nice combination of open and closed storage, and it is this beautiful light white oak color. I also love how they repeated the shape of the mirror and the vessel sink. It just brings a really beautiful, soft and feminine touch to the bathroom and looks really nice. I also love the wall-mounted faucet and the simple subway tile that is a little bit more of a modern subway tile shape and has just a little bit of texture, but is still a nice light white color. And of course, our bathroom wasn't going to be able to do all the same things. For instance, I didn't want to have to open up the wall and change the plumbing for a wall-mounted faucet. And it also turned out that making our own vanity or buying a whole new custom vanity was just going to be outside of our price point and skills at the time. One of the perks of my day job being an architect is that I'm able to use 3D software to test out design ideas and colors and finishes to figure out what I want in a room that I'm remodeling. So I went forward with 2 different design options for the bathroom. One was a little bit of a lighter one, and then one was just a darker option that really had black, be the central color. And then within these options, I tested out different mirrors and different lighting to finally land on what my favorite option was to move forward with. After testing out several paint colors on the walls, we ended up going more of a darker route with a black color on the wainscot, which is basically the lower portion of the wall. One thing that was really important for me is to find the perfect vessel sink. So a vessel sink typically refers to a sink that is going to be on top of the countertop. There are also some vessel sinks that are on top of the countertop, but also partially beneath the countertop. So I started by ordering 2 vessel sinks that I thought were going to be the right shape and size. So the first one was this sink by Glacier Bay, which is just a standard Home Depot brand, so it was very affordable. And as you could see, it was pretty short, and I actually just wanted something a little deeper, which I find helpful just for more flexibility if you need to wash a little section of hair in the sink. And then I also looked at this other sink, which was more of a matte finish, and it was really tall, and the bottom of it was completely flat, so it wasn't going to drain water very well, and I could see that that was just going to get dirty. And plus, yeah, it was too tall, so neither of them felt like the right design. I ended up going with a Kohler sink, and Kohler is a fantastic brand, very reputable and good quality. And so I ended up spending a little bit more on the sink than the ones I initially looked at, but I think it turned out really well. And the Kohler one actually was a partially inset sink, so we had to get the countertop cut out around it to set the sink into it. The first part of our bathroom renovation was taking off the tile countertop and preparing it for a new solid surface countertop and our new sink. Here, my husband and a relative are doing a dry fit of the countertop. We ordered the countertop from a local fabricator, and it was from a solid surface remnant, so we also were able to save a little bit of money by transporting it and installing it ourselves, which is something that I was a little bit worried about, but it did turn out just fine. So basically, we are putting a construction adhesive on all the dividers of the vanity, and then we are coming back to lay it on top. And I was so nervous about this part, but they did a great job. It was really heavy, and it would have been nice to have a professional do it, but it turned out. And perhaps most importantly, our cats, Panda and Macchiato, seem to love the new sink and faucet, so I think that was a success. Around the same time as the countertop and the faucet, I also found our shower head. I got a Delta Trinsic shower head and tub faucet, and I got this secondhand off of Facebook Marketplace, I believe. And this was one of the first things I found, and I thought it was a pretty good deal. So here's what it looked like after we put on the countertop and the new sink and the new faucet. Definitely a big improvement. And next up, the medicine cabinet. A medicine cabinet was one of my biggest dreams, and I've always wanted a medicine cabinet. So before we decided that we were going forward with it, I made sure to check to see if the wall was load-bearing or not, because we didn't want to have to cut studs in a load-bearing wall. So just something to be aware of, and it was not a load-bearing wall, which is awesome. So here's after we took out the existing mirror. And one thing just to note is if you have an old house, built before, I think, 1978, most likely you are going to have some sort of lead paint. So here you can see all the different layers of previous paints in this bathroom, which I think is really cool because you can kind of see the history of the place and the different trends. But ultimately, we did go and get the paints tested for lead, and yes, they did have lead. So, that impacted how we went about the project, and Andrew was really careful at containing all the dust and wearing proper protective gear. So that's just something, if you don't want to expose yourself to that or don't really know how to take the precautions, it's always a great idea to hire a professional. And here's how the medicine cabinet turned out. The old mirror was mounted pretty high on the wall, so this is a lot lower and it provides me a lot better view when I'm doing my makeup. I love being able to hide everything inside the cabinet, yet still have it at easy reach. And then we wanted to decide exactly where to hang the light fixture. higher or lower. Because it is such a small space, we felt like one pendant light would be enough, and then we were going to add another one later if we needed to, and it ended up being enough light for us. When you're lighting a bathroom, you want to make sure that you have some light next to a mirror that is going to shine towards someone's face. You don't want just overhead lighting, and you want to consider wall sconces or pendant lights that really do throw light straight out, and that gives you the best lighting on your face without too many shadows. So just one little tip for you. I would say the hardest and most stressful part of the renovation as people doing this for the first time was the shower. So here's after we took down all the tile and wallboard on those shower walls. You can see on the other side those wood strips. That's wood lath, and you can see the plaster on the other side seeping through. So lath and plaster was a very common construction for the wall finish in homes of, early 1900s. So after we framed out the shower niche, the next thing we had to do is put a backer board on the stud. So we used Go board. Basically, it's a foam board with a facer that you can apply your mortar to. There are also lots of other things you could use. You could use traditional cement board, or Schluter also makes a product that can be used as a tile backer. We used this because it was cost effective. So for the wall tile, I wanted something very classic and very neutral. So I ended up going with this Bedrosian tile called Mikado, and it's this subway tile that has a little bit of a handmade look, but still looks very clean. It has a really slight color variation for this nice off-white blend. I think it looks very high-end, so I like it, and it also has a nice matte finish. They have similar lines called Chloe that have a gloss finish if you prefer that. The little plastic white things that you see between the tiles are tile spacers. These allow you to put the tiles on the mortar and give it the consistent spacing so that when you grout the tile, all the grout lines are the same thickness. And we used 1/8 inch tile spacers for 1/8 inch grout lines. And this is about the smallest that you can go with tiles that have a little bit of a rough edge like these do. Framing out the exact location of the shower niche was one of the hardest parts about the bathroom remodel because I wanted it to line up exactly with the tiles on all four sides. And for the niche sides and shelves, I found a marble that went really well with the colors in the Mikado tile, just for something a little bit different, and also because you could leave the edges exposed and it would look nice. So that was maybe a little splurge, but I think it turned out really well. One thing to know about the Mikado tile is I found that I wanted to narrow the color range a little bit and make sure that things were the color range was appropriately spread out and dispersed. So I ended up going through the boxes and kind of sorting by these ones are very light, these ones are very dark, and tried to alternate the colors a little bit. And we ended up doing the tile over about, I think, 3 days. And so we did end up staying at our in-laws' house to take showers during that time. Another thing that we completed was the flooring. We got some black slate tiles from a friend, and we had almost enough to do the whole floor, so we only needed to purchase a few tiles. And I don't have any photos or videos because Andrew installed the floor himself while I wasn't there, and I forgot to ask him to take photos. But it did turn out really nicely, and of course I made sure to pick a grout that matched the tile color just for the most seamless look. Want something just really nice base color. And with the floor, super important to make sure that you properly waterproof it. So there's basically a tile isolation mat waterproofing board that is underneath it that prevents it from cracking. And also it's really important to seal your natural stone and grout. And so we went with a sealer that was very matte, so you can't really tell. It doesn't make it dark or glossy, and that was the look that we wanted. Next up, refinishing the vanity and the walls. So you can see here where I tried to sand the finish off the vanity, and I had this dream that it was going to be a beautiful wood finish. I would just clear coat it and it would just be perfect, and then I could do white walls, and it just ended up not being the case. So I did end up rethinking my colors a little bit. I found myself really drawn towards these gray, green, blue colors. So I ended up doing a few test swatches just to see how I felt once they were actually in the space. And because of how small the space is and just that it only has one window, I did end up trying to keep it a little bit lighter overall on the upper walls. And I also wanted to reduce the number of colors in such a small space. So for the lower half of the walls, I went with a black that tied into the tile, but also the black trim on the mirror and the faucet and the shower head. And because we were doing this on a budget, we decided to keep our existing vanity and make it as nice as we could. The one thing was swapping out the brass knobs for something a little bit more modern, these black finger pulls. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of a problem in terms of getting them to sit right. So basically, my spouse routed out a little bit in the doors so that we could install them properly. So we started by painting the walls white just to see how that would look and maybe to see if we wanted to go all white. And it ended up feeling just too stark for this space, especially with the black. A lot of white and black can feel very dated and farmhousey, so it just wasn't the vibe we were going for, and we wanted more color. So we painted the lower half of the walls black semi-gloss. It was Sherwin-Williams Tricorn Black. And we also ended up painting the vanity the same color. And this is partially just to have something that's really cleanable in the bathroom. We have a lot of cats and their hair just ends up sticking everywhere. And I just wanted walls that were really wipeable, at least for this space. And we did reinstall the copper pipe shower curtain rod, which was just a fun original detail of the space. And we did spray paint it black, which was just a really easy fix to tie it all together. For the windows, originally we just had a curtain that we cut at the bottom to get to the right length, just for something temporary. Then I got something that was just like a white striped curtain, but didn't really love it. And so eventually I found the beautiful stained glass window that I put inside our window. And I have another YouTube video on what that process was like and what I did there, so be sure to check that out. And here's how the bathroom turned out. The stained glass is definitely my highlight of the bathroom. I love how the colors we chose are very 1920s inspired, and I also love that we kept the original trim in that it really reflects the age of the house. And then layering on top just modern clean lines and rounded forms for me just feels really nice in a bathroom space. And then I also love how the tile turned out in the shower niche and just about everything in this bathroom. However, I do have a few regrets, and I am going to make another video on that, so I'll link it here when I do put that up. The shower niche and the medicine cabinet are these functional details that honestly bring me so much joy. And if you remember, there were some of my main priorities for this bathroom remodel in the beginning. And of course, having hot water is awesome. I can finally take the scalding hot showers that I so desired. And with the medicine cabinet, we were able to clear off our counters of any extra stuff. And I absolutely love being clutter-free in the bathroom. It just, again, just like makes the space more calming and peaceful. And just having one space that's always clean, it just feels really good. I think this project really highlights that a small space can feel really nice and luxurious, and also you can remodel something but still keep a lot of the big pieces but make a big impact. I'm also going to break down the budget details in another video, so if you do want to watch that, I will also link that here when I have that ready.